Hi, I'm Joe Alvarez. Welcome to Fire Engineering's Training Minutes. We're going to talk today about safety and cutting a hole in a roof. All too many times, guys sit there and they'll look at the books, and I'm not knocking, different techniques, but what ends up happening here is guys will sit there and say, I must cut this line, I must cut that line. That's correct. But what you do have to remember is people don't follow that rule at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're cutting a roof. They need to get the roof open immediately, and they're gonna just make those 4 to 5 cuts that they need to get that hole open. One thing you have to remember is don't be the coyote and the road runner. For those of you that grew up in the 70s know exactly what I'm talking about. For the younger kids that have been playing with computers all their lives, not so much. You're gonna understand though when I go through this. The old joke was with the coyote and the road runner was he'd want to go and blow up a hole with dynamite, or he'd go and cut the mountain, and the coyote would always end up falling and the road runner would be sitting there laughing. Well, the same thing could happen to you if you do this technique. Look where I'm standing. I'm standing directly over where I'm gonna cut, and as I go to make my cuts, see what just happened? I made the cut and I was standing in a danger zone. I want to be safe. So whether you're lefty or righty, it doesn't matter. I'm going to make the same series of cuts, but look where I'm standing now. Every place I just stepped was in a safe zone. It was outside of my cut circle. You have to also remember, we always have to overlap our cuts. And a lot of guys will take this saw and they'll put it into the roof deck, they'll make their first cut, and they'll walk the saw back and forth. Not good. This saw needs to be buried, full RPMs, and you always walk away. You don't ever push towards. A way to guarantee that we overlap our cuts, the arbor, the bolt. We always make sure that that starts on the opposite side of the cut. If this traditionally was my original cut, when I go to make my next cut, I'm gonna take my arbor and I'm gonna start with it on this side, bury my saw, and walk it across. You'll see after our firefighters make their cuts and they follow that technique, you're gonna see how our cuts almost look measured. Okay, I know in previous training minutes I talked about using the tool as a guide so we know how big the measurement is. What I just did here by following the saw inside this hole area was not for that. I'm not expecting you to box off the whole thing. It's just a guide for us. I wanted this to be here so you could actually physically see where the danger zone was. Just remember, everybody, this is a training prop. This is not a real roof. The guys we're only 2 feet off the ground. The firefighters are not working this close to the edge of the roof. It's not a safety concern. We're not worried about them falling off. Picture this being a very large roof. It is only a training prop. Notice the firefighter's hand is on his shoulder. That means the cutting is being done. Notice the firefighter's hand that was guiding came off. The firefighter immediately stopped his cutting. Okay, notice a couple of things that happened here. One is, it is very cold out. The saw was not running too much longer before they used it. That happens at fires. The saw was stalling down. The other thing is, depending on the firefighter and how trained they are with this saw, you want to let the saw do your work. If you heard the saw did start to bog down, it's because the firefighter was pulling the saw into the cut. Let the saw do your cut for you. Okay, lesson learned. That was number one. Number two is, as you can see, all his lines were overlapped. He brought the arbor before his cut, and the arbor finished after his cut. And all his cuts looked almost as if they were measured out. Hopefully you got some tips today. We did utilize some techniques using the saw, the arbor, the blade, and making it go before and after our original cuts. We completed our cuts, they're all through. I'm Joe Alvarez, thank you for watching Training Minutes. And don't forget, we are filming in November and it is No Shave November.